Peter Boolkah here, and welcome to today's edition of the Transition Guy. Now, today's episode, I'm going to be looking at a topic that's hugely debated around the world, and that's the so-called living wage. Now, if you take the news and you look at what's been happening over the last couple of years, in the Americas, you've had California being quite prevalent, where they've been campaigning quite vigorously for a minimum of $10 an hour wage. If you go to sort of the UK, we're calling it living wage. In fact, our leader of the opposition has been very vocal recently. So Jeremy Corbyn, who deserves a special mention in today's episode, who's the leader of the Labour Party, if he had his way, he would go out there and he would make sure that everybody was getting a minimum of £10 an hour, being like sort of wages. Which is really good when you're the sort of leader of the opposition party, because you can make all these veiled promises and not have an idea how you're going to facilitate and finance it. And then sort of when you get into power and you don't deliver, it's an absolute disgrace. And in fact, the reason I'm talking about Jeremy Corbyn, I'm not normally politically driven, but this man's a special kind of fucking idiot. So I apologise for my language, but I mean, he's just a one-of-a-kind dickhead. And he's making all these promises that people are really buying into, because let's face it, I mean, a lot of people are struggling. So they want to believe his empty promises, and it's just going to be when he gets into power, it's just not going to happen. Now, I have a lot of clients, especially in the industry right now, that are concerned about the living wage. They're concerned about paying people more money, because at the end of the day, it's happening as we speak. You've got a couple of employers out there that are going out their way, paying people a lot of money. They are working them like pigs, to be honest with you, and working them into the ground, but they're being paid more money. And I totally believe there's got to be a middle ground. There's got to be a middle ground between sort of paying people a lot of money and working them into the ground, and paying people no money and still working them into the ground. I don't believe the answer is necessarily going to be let's just raise everyone's wages, because the reality is, if you're a manufacturing company, you don't rely on tourism, yes, you can put your wages up, but what's businesses going to do? They're going to put their prices up because they're going to have to. Otherwise, they're just going to go bust because there's not enough margin there. And if you take there's countries out there, countries like your Switzerland's and stuff, where if you use the measurement of how expensive a country is, a good barometer for that tends to be McDonald's or a pint of beer. And in McDonald's, you've got a Big Mac meal well in excess of £10, and you go to the Nordic countries and you can be paying £7 upwards for a pint of beer. So yes, you might be getting paid more money, but at the end of the day, your costs of services and goods have gone up equally. The challenge with that is if you're a high tourist dependent destination and you put your prices up and all of a sudden you become too expensive for people to come to visit. That's probably one of the challenges we've got in the UK. We have not got much in the way of industry like we used to. We're a financial services country, which is starting to have an interesting impact regarding the whole Brexit thing, where people are starting to relocate. So when you take all those things out of the equation, we rely on tourism. Put the prices up, and then we become so prohibitively expensive, people are not just going to visit. Now, the answer to that, quite frankly, is we've got to be smarter. Now, I remember when I joined McDonald's, I remember joining McDonald's and I was only getting paid £1.42 an hour. And back in the days when I started, which was quite a long time ago, you had two age brackets, under 18s and over 18s. I always used to remember that the over 18 starting wage was always double what I was getting as under 18. So already there was a disparity. It was unfair, that's all been abolished now, but it was that disparity. The younger you are, the less you got paid. So I had to think, okay, well, I'm doing the same job with this person that's over 18. They're getting paid more money than me and I'm working really hard. It's not fair. Fortunately, McDonald's had a great system in place where they had little modules. You probably remember it if you saw the badges with the stars on them, and everyone used to take the piss, yeah, you're a 5-star general. Well, that basically meant that if you had 5 stars on your badge, you knew the entire restaurant's operations. So you could work anywhere in the restaurant. And for McDonald's, that was absolutely valuable, especially when people weren't turning up, etc., or you needed to make a shift pattern changes. What would happen is you had people that were far more flexible, which would allow you to operate. Which means that at the end of the day, that as you learn the modules, you got a pay rise. And I kind of figured already, well, do you know what, if I added more value by learning more and being able to do more, I get paid more. It was a win-win. And that was back nearly 20 years ago, or 25 years ago actually, when that was happening. So you can imagine the power of that. And I've got a franchisee at McDonald's right now, and we was having the same conversation. And he was saying, well, I'm losing people to Lidl who's paying like £10, £11 an hour. And I was saying to him, well, at the end of the day, if somebody comes and joins you, and they start at the very beginning, right? They come in, they start at what, £6.20 an hour, whatever it is, and they actually went through your training program, and his training program's great, because McDonald's training program is always great, and you put them through their paces. In 18 months, how much could they be earning? And he said to me, well, just under £10. And how much value would they be adding? Huge value. Now, okay, McDonald's is very fortunate. It's got such a robust training program, which allows people to make those changes. And actually, if they choose to, have a career progression pathway. Most SMEs do not have that. In fact, they come in, they tend to operate on the principle, you come in, you'll get paid a wage, but there's not that clarity around career progression. That's where we need to get better. We need to, not so much a minimum wage, living wage model, more the model of a value-driven model. How can we actually train our people, develop our people, so that they become better skilled, so that they can add more value to us as an organisation? And that's the win-win. You don't want to be hiring loads of people on the lowest possible wage and thinking that if you throw loads of numbers at it, the sheer numbers will compensate and it'll be okay. Normally when you have loads of numbers at something, loads of people, you chuck people at the problem without the training, without the development, etc. Yes, they'll work very hard, but they'll probably make loads of mistakes and it'll cost you that money anyway. So my proposal is this. We need to start looking at how we can create a great flight pathway for people's career progression. How can we train them, skill them, reward them as they add more value to the organisation? Now, you're going to have people that will come into your organisation and won't want career progression. Well, the reality is, if you don't want to add more value, there is going to be a minimum wage for a job. There is. If it's a low-skilled job, low-value job, you can't really expect to pay big money for it. It just doesn't equate. So these people that don't want the career progression, they want an easy life and they just want to do the bare minimum, you've got to be prepared to accept that you're going to be paid the bare minimum, because that is a choice that you made. But for those that don't want to make that choice and they want that they're willing to work at it, they want that career progression, we need to provide that pathway. Now, if anything today resonates with you, you've got a team, you don't quite know how to develop them, you don't quite know how to get more value, and Jim Collins says it really eloquently, you're far better having less people, being paid more money, being 4 times more productive, and you don't have that in your business, but you love that in your business, head over to Boolkah.com and get in contact. And remember, failing to learn is learning to fail.